Hi, and thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. And I really want to give this talk about sexual liberation a little bit of space to really explore this concept of liberation. And I really see this as an aspect of really tuning in to the awareness and the reality that we are this feminine, ecstatic, blissful essence, right? So we are that. And that is who we are in our soul, in our individuated soul, in the secret of our soul. We are this ecstatic, blissful energy that comes through, that we might also relate to as life force, or we might relate to as the Shakti energy. But that is who we are. It's not who it is not something that we have to do. It is not something that we have to try to kind of get on the outer, right? And so in our culture, of course, we've, really been disconnected from that concept of the ecstatic, blissful, feminine essence. We've been disconnected. It's been demonized, especially in women, and especially in relationship to sexuality. And, that's been going on for the last 5,000 years. And so that, really has created a disconnection and a fear and a shaming and so many other veils that have kind of come in and really separated us from this reality, from this truth, from actually living from that, from orienting from this place that I call joy, blissful joy. We usually, orient from survival in our culture. And as women, it's like, what has kept us safe? What do we need to do to be safe? How do we, how do we act in the world so that we can stay safe? Because it hasn't been a very safe environment to bring these true qualities through of the feminine. And so as we start to explore this concept of liberation and this concept of really being in our ecstatic feminine essence, we start to hit up against some of these places in our being, in our bodies, that have kind of kept the score, that really on a cellular memory, on a cellular level, is still feeling the lack of safety, is still feeling the shame, in all of the millions of ways that we've shamed our bodies, or that we somehow try to live up to a particular idea of who we should be, what we should look like. And that has really affected our ability to feel pleasure. It has created this enmeshing of shame with pleasure. And in our culture we have, pleasure. When we talk about pleasure and joy and bliss, it's almost like the only two avenues to that is acceptable is really in sex and food, right? Those are probably the two acceptable avenues that we can talk about pleasure. But the truth is that we are beings of ecstatic bliss. We're beings of love, that infinite love that seeks to merge and that seeks to come together and feel and dissolve and completely come into union. And the truth is that we are that. So we don't have to look for outside sources for that. But in order to feel that in our own bodies, we have to be willing to let these barriers that might be unconscious or might be conscious, these barriers that we carry in this vessel, right, in our bodies, because it's not just barriers of thinking of the shame or empowering ourselves mentally, psychologically, or emotionally, but it's really how we hold this trauma on the cellular level, because our bodies, our physical bodies have consciousness as well. And so there's cellular consciousness in our cells, right? In our cells, in our organs. And so we have to start to feel safe. We have to be able to feel safe and feel the safety and allow these places of shame and self-judgment and criticism to fall away more and more, so that we can land in this ecstatic, blissful state of our being. And when we're able to do that, then we start to recognize that, that we don't have to be in this survival state, in this defensive state all the time. We can actually allow ourselves to feel good, feel good about ourselves, and to allow this ecstatic bliss to permeate our being, to enjoy the joy, to enjoy the joy that we are, to enjoy being in pleasure, to enjoy our senses, to go out into the world and into nature and enjoy this, with ourselves, to enjoy this force that comes through and might guide us to do some creative practices, or might invite us to merge with another human being, and so this has many ways of expressing itself, and it expresses itself, individually for each person. And so, it might not just be in food and sex. It's really, it could come through in everything that we're doing. And so this is really an aspect, a great aspect of connecting with your feminine essence, is really liberating yourself to feel that infinite fountain source of joy that you are, as well as the love and the peace and the safety. And navigating life through that orientation, and allowing ourselves to heal the places that are still, in fear and in judgment and in shame of these places of ourselves, of our pleasure, of our being, because this is how we've been entrained for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So it's in the collective. And once we're able to really, really accept this reality that we are this ecstatic, blissful essence, at our core, and that this essence can come through you and through everything. And we're able to dissolve the guilt, we're able to drop the shame, we're able to work through our personal and collective trauma. Because as a collective, as women, we have a lot of collective trauma that's right there ready to be healed. And so when we're able to do this, then we can start feeling this blissful energy just by being present, just by closing our eyes and connecting. It's like turning our heart inward and feeling. And then we start to see that presence, it's like your light is this energizing, ecstatic, blissful essence, state, right? And we're able to tune into that in any moment, at any moment, because we start to dissolve those barriers of separation, which really only exists in our mind, in our consciousness. So as conscious beings, we're able to really just stop, and we're able to just tune in. And it starts by acknowledging this truth about yourself. Like, I am ecstatic awareness. I am ecstatic presence. I am ecstatic feminine essence. And that starts to shift your whole nervous system. It starts to shift you from moving in this survival, unconscious kind of survival, fight or flight, into the relaxation of your being, into the safety of the great mother energy, of the divine, of essence. And it just starts for you to allow to have that safety, to then really start to feel your hands, feel the energy moving, your ecstatic energy that's moving through you at all times. And so it's only our own mental awareness, right, that starts to create that barrier. That's the first step. And then there's the emotional pieces, our trauma, the collective trauma that's there. And that's really working with our shadow. When we start to work with the shadow and start to allow these conditioning patterns to dissolve, then we can come into the essence, the womb. It's like coming into the womb of the great mother, because that's where we can land, feel safe, and then just start to feel, just with our breath even. It's quite simple, and I'm sure a lot of the other wonderful women on our panel will have other practices to start to create, allow you to awaken to this reality within you. And then as you cultivate this, because it's, even though it's here at all times, we have forgotten it. And this is a process of recalibration, and recalibration to that reality. So that on a linear level, it needs time for us to actually allow ourselves to drop, allow ourselves to just be in presence, in this ecstatic presence of our being. And we can do that at any time. We can do that in a morning meditation and an evening meditation. We can do that in a walk on nature. We can do that in the beach. We can do that in your own living rooms. You can do that right here, right now. You can do that as I'm even speaking. It's like I'm allowing this transmission to touch, to go out into the world, and then we tune into it. It begins by allowing our minds to grasp the concept, and then letting this concept come into our hearts, so that we can embody what would that feel like. What would that feel like if you knew that you are, that you were, or you are this ecstatic, blissful light? And then bringing it and connecting with our deeper wombs and our sacral to ground this knowing, to become this knowing, to break through any of the barriers in our consciousness that keep us from living, from orienting from joy, from orienting from this ecstatic bliss, and transmitting that into the world. And that is a way for us to come into our sovereignty, for the feminine to come through you and out into the world, and start to recalibrate not just ourselves, but the world that we live in. And so I thank you so much for having me on this beautiful panel, and I want to leave you with one thought of just inviting yourselves to take this on, and inviting yourselves to know and to embody this ecstatic, blissful, feminine essence that you are. Thank you. Peace.